This video is a follow-on from the previous 4 videos dealing with price in the precious metals markets. If you haven't seen those videos, I'd recommend you doing so before watching this one. So let's pick up where we left off and take a look at perceptions. Now finally we can go back to talking about the perceived status of currencies and market manipulations. Why is the perceived status of currencies so important? Well, for the simple reason that if people realised that their currencies were as worthless as they are, they would reject them and they would seek out alternatives such as gold and silver, or perhaps decentralized cryptos. As I said in the previous video, ever since the Nixon shock of 1971, all currencies became fiat currencies, so they're basically unbacked and therefore essentially worthless. To be fair, I should say that the dollar has been supported by 2 things. Firstly, the world reserve status ever since the end of World War II. And secondly, by the Petro-Dollar System ever since 1973. The latter backs the dollar with oil, and oil can be thought of as black gold. But anyway, I've covered these topics in other videos, so I won't go into them here. All I will say is that the world reserve status and the petrodollar system are failing, and because of the 1945 Bretton Woods Agreement, all currencies are linked to the dollar, and so if the dollar fails, all other currencies will fail along with it. Anyway, I have an image in mind of a cartoon character running off the edge of a cliff, but only when he realises that he's gone over the edge and is supported by nothing does he actually fall. Absurd as this might seem, this is basically where we are at now. We are, every single one of us, suspended in midair and have been for some 50 years. I've been waiting for the time when people finally realise that their currencies are supported only by the world reserve status, an international agreement between a number of nations at the end of World War II, and by the petrodollar system, an agreement with some nations in the Middle East, both of which are in the process of failing, but apart from that, their currencies are basically worthless. Some people have been aware of this state of affairs, the silver stackers and the gold bugs and others besides, I'm sure. And more people are beginning to realise, but still really very few. In terms of the population of the world, they represent an absolute minuscule proportion. Anyway, let's return to perceptions. Perception management is the name of the game because perceptions are very important for our overlords in order for them to keep in control and maintain power. I've talked about currencies, but now let's consider the importance of perceptions as it relates to precious metals like gold and silver. Precious metals are the proverbial canaries in a coal mine. They alert people to what is actually occurring with regard to the status of the currency. How so? Well, because precious metals hold their value over time. Their value remains relatively stable. They are a good store of value. The same cannot be said of currencies, especially unbacked currencies. Precious metals are, moreover, considered as being valuable. They have a value in and of themselves. This is the reason why they've been used as money by different cultures for millennia. In economics, relativity is an important concept. When it comes to value, everything is relative, so the value of something is regarded in relation to something else. With all this in mind, the value of currencies can be directly compared to the value of precious metals like gold and silver. Price action in the precious metals markets is important because the value of currencies can be directly compared to the value of precious metals like gold and silver. Let's consider the dollar to illustrate this point, specifically the gold price in terms of dollars. You might want to look at a dollar gold chart. Goldprice.org has a chart which goes back to about 1973. If you look at this chart, you'll see that the price of gold in dollar terms has risen over the years. In the last 20 years, it's risen over 400%. I would, however, like to suggest that you look at the chart in a different way. Flip the chart over on its horizontal axis along the x-axis with the dates. The line is then declining. You can ignore the dollar values on the vertical y-axis. They're not relevant. What's the point in doing this? Well, if you've flipped the chart, then this will show not the price of gold in dollar terms, but the value of the dollar as it relates to gold. Looking at it this way will show you how much the dollar has declined in value as compared to gold since after the Nixon shock in 1971. This same approach can be applied to any currencies. Indeed, a good way of assessing the state of any currency is to compare that currency to gold. Gold is, to my way of thinking, by far the best measure that can be used for valuing a currency. So you can look also at a gold chart with respect to any currency to see the price action that has occurred over time, for example with the Japanese yen or the British pound sterling. Then all you need to do is simply flip it over on its horizontal x-axis and see the general decline. We must bear in mind that the standard 4/9 refined gold in Japan or somewhere is no different to the standard 4/9 refined gold for sale in the UK, the US, Brazil, Turkey or anywhere in the world. So it's something of a consistent gauge. I would encourage you to do your own research on this and other matters that I've talked about also. In general, comparing gold with currencies should provide you with all the evidence you need to have an understanding that something is seriously amiss with all the currencies in the world. If the price of gold measured in that currency is high, then you know that the real value of the currency is low. When comparing currencies to either gold or silver, currencies will be found wanting. Anyway, this is the principal reason that our overlords manipulate the price of precious metals. They know that if they price the price of gold or silver in dollar terms, then, or whatever currency terms, then the value of the dollar will be seen as better than it truly is. So if they didn't do their price suppression, then the price of gold in currency terms would be far, far higher than it is now, and people would realise that there's something is wrong. This is really that simple. It's all about perceptions. They are without doubt a bunch of crafty cunts. Silver is half the price it was in 1980 when it got up to just under $50 per ounce. With silver so low, investors and ordinary people don't pay it much mind. There's a silly phrase, every cloud has a silver lining, and this is true. Silver is cheap because of the suppression, so you might want to see it as a buying opportunity. I take advantage of it. Other than that, I don't pay too much mind to the spot price because it's fake as fuck. I find it somewhat amusing that some commentators obsess about the smallest of rises or falls in price, but whatever, each to their own. By the way, our overlords don't want people knowing about this stuff because it exposes the state of currencies in the world, especially the dollar, so don't tell anyone. I'm joking, of course. Tell everyone you know. Share this information as widely as possible. The more people that know about this, the better. Indeed, everyone on the planet should know about this stuff. To end on a light-hearted note, to show what a great job our overlords have done at managing people's perceptions about precious metals, look at some YouTube videos Mark Dice has done offering people on the street a choice of candy or either gold or silver depending on the video. I've not seen a single time when someone actually chooses to take the precious metal. They all choose candy. If you ever encounter such a situation, I trust that you will not make such a foolish choice. I split this topic into a number of videos, so there's another however many to follow. In the next video, I'll focus on perceptions, but by approaching it from a slightly different angle. Wise up and rise up.